Hello, today we will recap a drama film in which an old man falls in love with a schoolgirl. To know what happens next, watch till the end. The movie starts with Humber driving. He is holding a hairpin in between his fingers, an equally blood-stained gun in his back seat. He thinks about a young girl, and though she's known by many names from Lo to Dolores, she will always be Lolita in his arms. Humber talks about Annabelle, who he met when he was 14. She wanted to be a nurse while Humbert wanted to be a spy. She died not long after he fell in love with her as a teenager. Even though the child he adored had died, he continued to search for her. As he grew into adulthood in 1947, Humbert accepts a teaching post at Beardsley College in America. He decided to finish a textbook he was writing during his free summer. Before the fall semester, he goes to live at the house of a friend of his late uncle the Macus. However, when he arrives, the house has been burned down. Charlotte Hayes, a Macu's friend and widower, graciously agrees to accommodate him. Instead, he meets Charlotte. After showing him her messy home, Charlotte takes him to the garden, and this is where he finds Lo, Charlotte's daughter, beside the sprinklers, drenched in reading a magazine. Her clothing barely conceals anything. Her underwear is visible beneath. Humbert can't keep his eyes off of her when Lo notices him. She smiles, displaying her retainers and emphasizing her young age of 14. He mutters that she's beautiful and asks Charlotte how much the room was. Days pass, and Humbert secretly and wistfully observes the childish and dance and music-obsessed Lo, who appears completely uninterested in him. He can see the bathroom from his room, and from there he can see Lo's bedroom. He observes her mother arguing with her as well as her idleness. Lo pays him a visit to his room one day. She stands behind his desk, and then unexpectedly sits on his lap just to stick the gum she's been chewing onto his notebook. Lo immediately stands up and runs away. When Charlotte calls for him, Charlotte discovers Lo fleeing to her room while Humbert attempts to remove the gum Lo had left on his notebook. Charlotte eventually makes Lo pack her belongings for camp, followed by boarding school. On the day that she's leaving, Humbert hurriedly looks out the window as they're getting in the car. Just as Lo gets into the car, she notices Humbert staring out the window. Lo runs back to their home, then up the stairs so she can jump for Humbert. She wraps herself around him and kisses him goodbye. Humbert, on the other hand, rushes to Lo's room and dives into her closet, but as soon as he hears Louise call out to him, he straightens up to meet her. She gives him a letter, and when he reads it, he realizes it's from Charlotte, in which she expresses her love for him. She requests that he leave before she returns. If he doesn't, it simply means that he wants to be with her as much as she does. Humbert stays and marries Charlotte, with Lo absent from the ceremony. Despite Charlotte's affection for Humbert, he remains dismissive of her. Humbert successfully avoids most of his husbandly duties 6 weeks into their marriage by giving Charlotte sleeping pills. When he gets home one day, he finds Charlotte crying at the table. She had read his diary where he had called her a fat cow, old and stupid, and how much he liked Lo. She tells him she's leaving and promises he'll never see Lo again. He tells her that they both need a drink. Humbert receives a phone call in which a man informs him that Charlotte has died. Humbert realizes that Charlotte's no longer at the writing table. The front door is wide open. He steps out and finds her lifeless body in the middle of the street. A kid hands Humbert the letters, explaining that she was going to mail them when she got hit. Humbert accepts the letters and heads back to their house, where he can stop pretending that he cares about his wife's death. Humbert eventually packs Lo's clothes and drives to camp to pick her up. Lo inquires about Charlotte in the car, and Humbert informs her that she is in the hospital with an abdominal problem. Lo then goes to the back of the car to change her clothes while he is watching her through the rearview mirror. He then tells her that he missed her, to which Lo responds that she didn't miss him. She tells him that she believes he doesn't care about her because he has yet to kiss her. In response, Humbert pulls over. Lo immediately climbs onto his lap to kiss him. They later check into a hotel. While Humbert is speaking with the receptionist, Lo crawls to a dog and begins mischievously playing with it. The dog's owner is a wealthy and elderly gentleman. The owner remarks that his dog dislikes most people but surprisingly likes Lo. When Lo asks who the dog likes, he says he can smell the sweetness, and that he likes nice, sweet young people like her. Humbert leads Lo to their hotel room. Once inside, she asks him if they'll be sharing the same room and bed. Humbert tries to convince Lo that he can take the cot if she wants, and as Lo slumps down on the chair, she calls him crazy. She speaks dismissively, and uncaringly about her mother divorcing him and strangling her if she finds out. Humbert sits on the bed attempting to explain to her that he is responsible for her welfare as her father, and that because they are not wealthy they must share the same room when they travel. After checking into their room, the two later have dinner. Low gestures to one of the men in the booths claiming that he's watching them. It's the dog owner. From the lounge later that night back in their hotel room, Humbert is taking off Lo's shoes and socks. She wants to tell him about how naughty and disgusting she was at camp, but Humbert insists on waiting until tomorrow. Humbert walks out while Lo is getting ready for bed. When Humbert arrives at the hotel's porch, he hears the same man speaking while rocking in his chair. Where in the devil did you get her? He tells him that Lo is his daughter, but the other man knows he's lying. He inquires about Lo's mother, and Humbert informs him that she is no longer alive. The man invites them both to lunch the following day, but Humbert declines and informs him that they will be leaving soon. Humbert enters their room and lies on the small portion of the bed. Lo wakes up the next morning and blows on his face. She kisses him softly and sloppily before whispering something in his ear, prompting Humbert to ask if she really did that with Charlie, someone she met at camp. She playfully tells him, and she guesses she'll need to show him everything. Then she starts untying his pajama bottoms and hugs him. They leave the hotel by car, and Lo asks him to take her to the gas station because she is in pain. He looks at her terrified, and she tells him what he expects after what he did. She describes herself as a daisy fresh girl. Then Lo muses about calling the cops to tell them he forced himself on her before breaking into a grin. Lo rushes to the store, and when she returns she requests coins from Humbert so she can call her mother. He informs her that she cannot, and she asks him why she can't contact her. Mother Humbert finally tells her the truth. They began traveling extensively throughout the country after that one hot morning in an inn. Lo and Humbert hug each other on a chair while Lo's reading comics. They eventually arrive at Beardsley College, where Humbert takes up his teaching position. He also gets Lo to attend a very liberal Beardsley prep school. Lo tells Humbert one afternoon that she'd like to participate in a school play. Humbert is already aware of it. He flatly refuses. She walks over to Humbert and sits on the floor in front of him, calmly asserting her intelligence. She uses her foot to play with his bull. She proceeds to seduce him, telling him she has a right to be in a play if she so desires. She demands that he increase her allowance and allow her to participate in the play. She states that she wants things too, the same way he wants things from her. Mona, one of the schoolgirls, speaks with Humbert while Lo is rehearsing for her role as a witch in the school play. She draws his attention to a smoking man near the exit, saying that it's Claire Quilty, the actual playwright. Humbert finds himself purchasing her favors as their relationship grows colder. He believes she is saving every penny in order to flee from him. He discovers that Lo has missed the last 2 sessions of her piano lessons. When he asks what she's been up to, she explains that she's been practicing the play with Mona. When he calls Mona, she admits that they have been practicing in the park. Humbert isn't convinced, and the two get into an argument. He accuses Lo of attempting to flee from him, which she does not deny. He slaps her. She tells him a murderer. He requests that she stop, but she refuses and continues her accusation. She screams and runs from him. Humbert finds Lo in a pharmacy. Lo quickly tries to hide the fact that she was calling someone. She informs him that she has been attempting to contact him since she made a decision. She wants to leave Beardsley and go on another trip, but this time she chooses where they go the next day. The pseudo-father-daughter duo departs Beardsley for wherever Lo desires. She draws a map with her lipstick to show Humbert where he needs to go. However, as they drive along, Humbert notices that they are being followed. He asks her to write down the license plate of the car and suspects that a detective who resembles his uncle Gustav is following them. The detective kept changing cars, and some days he'd vanish, leaving him to wonder if he was hallucinating. Humbert stops at a gas station one day and goes inside to try on some sunglasses. When he looks out the window, he sees Lo talking to a man in a hat, and the man has vanished by the time Humbert rushes out. Humbert gets in the car and asks Lo about him, and she explains that he asked if they had a map. The two eventually stay in and in again, and Humbert leaves Lo to get her bananas while he gets a haircut. He hears on the radio in the barber shop that Claire Quilty will be in Waste, Texas that night. When Humbert returns to the And he finds Lo sitting down her feet. Dirty, and her lipstick smeared. He claims she has been out, but she tells him she has only just gotten up. He throws her on the bed and begs for her to tell him who it is. As he hugs her again, she only smiles at him, kisses and giggles at him. They leave and stop by another inn on a rainy night. As the woman shows Humbert to their room, they notice Lo sitting on the ground, pale and shivering. The doctor tells Humbert in the hospital that it's just a virus, and that it's nothing serious. The doctor requests him to leave or else he'll catch it too. The next day he calls to check on her, and the nurse informs him that Lo is doing well and that her uncle Gustav has signed her out. He searches for her, returning to all the places they've been, always just a step behind. He never finds them because he has no idea who took her. Eventually the trail he's following goes cold. 3 years later, Humbert receives a letter from Lo. She informs him that she is married and will soon give birth. They need help, and she requests some money to help them survive. She expresses her sadness and hardships, and she signs off with Dolly. Mrs. Richard F. Schiller. Humbert pays a visit to Lo and discovers a more mature version of her. She greets him warmly, and he notices the pregnancy. Lo welcomes him, and Humbert walks around their house, noticing her husband working on some electrical wires through the back door. He appears to be her age, and Humbert recognizes that he is not the man he's looking for. She realizes that he's still looking for the man who took her away, and explains that her husband had nothing to do with it. He gets up and tells her he'll find out himself, and she's surprised that he doesn't know. Finally she tells him that he was Quilty. Lo tells Humbert that Quilty was the only man she was really crazy about. Then Humbert asks her what about him. She stands up and leaves for the kitchen. She tells Humbert at his request about how everyone knew Quilty liked little girls, and that he filmed them in his mansion.